Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Mount Lady met Izuku and fell in love with him, part 1. I don't own this fanfic, and also make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, MosesArk REBORN 2000, and support him for writing this awesome fanfic, link is in the description. Let's begin the story. Is it wrong to be born without some genetic advantage? This is a problem that I thought about all those years ago. I was about 3 years old, and I was 5 years old. It had been very bad for me after it got out. I was without some quirk. All my schoolmates shunned me or made fun of me. Those days became more and more hurtful as I was the only kid in the whole of kindergarten not to have a quirk to call my own. I had just got my butt handed to me after I stood up to Kaken again. I was trying to help the boy they were beating up because he was crying, and heroes don't let people cry like that. After they left me lying there, I wanted to cry too. I wanted to yell why I didn't have some awesome quirk, why I didn't have some special power, why my pinky toe still had some useless joints. But it was then I thought back to how much my parents loved me. Even though father was often away with work, we always wrote letters and did video chats. I knew that I wanted to be a hero to keep them safe and protect people like All Might, but all I had going for myself was that I was really smart. I know I was because mother, father, and my sensei all said I was. Could I still be a hero even if I didn't have a quirk? I wanted that answer to be yes so badly. I wanted to believe that I could save people with a smile on my face. But it happened. A super odd sight changed my life forever and made me determined to become a hero and gave me a course to follow to reach my dream. I saw a very big bird flying above me and it looked like it was circling me like those vultures, yeah, like the vultures did Simba in the Lion King movie. It did this for a while. I had no real clue of how long because I was not keeping time. I was caught by how free it was to do as it pleased. After some time I got up and was about to walk home when it made its call and flew down to meet me. I should have been scared, but I wasn't. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew that this bird could kill me and I wouldn't be able to stop it, but I was so mesmerized by those golden eyes, its small but strong build, its beautiful coat of features, and how it showed such dominance over me by just opening its wings and extending them fully. It was then I knew what I needed to do to become a hero. I thanked the bird and it just screeched at me and flew off. It wasn't till later that after googling it at home that I found out that I had just seen a stellar sea eagle up close and personal and not been harmed in any way. Archive entry 2. The following entry is a rewrite of a pre-existing diary entry of one Midoriya Izuku. Mother was very hard to convince. She didn't want me getting hurt all the time like heroes do, but I proved to be just as stubborn about it. I told her how I had thought about it for a few days and came to the thought that I and Kaken would never be on the same level in a physical sense because he had a quirk and I didn't, but I could hope to surpass him in a mental sense because I was smart, always curious about things, and had a good sense of observation according to father and sensei. I told her why I wanted to be a hero, so I can keep her safe like All Might, and eventually, she gave in and said she would help me create the means I would need to do so. At the time I didn't know she also agreed to do so, thinking that I would change my path to support rather than combat, but that was something I only learned down the line. But like stone, my path had been set. The first thing I did was build a scale model with the help of many YouTube videos of what I wanted to build. It took 5 months of working on it after kindergarten in my room, but I finally managed to complete a scale model made from paper match, Legos, and wooden parts I got at the arts and crafts store down the road to show her. Just imagine a scale model of the first Vulture flight suit from the MCU, looked like if it was built a rather smart kid instead of a genius builder like Tinkerer. Father, who was watching via video call, and mother were surprised, to say the least. Father asked why I made the armor. I guess that's what we decided to call it, even if it was mainly birds like wings, so I told them about the day I saw the eagle, and after mother calmed down from worrying over me, I told them I wanted to be like birds, free and proud, but also powerful and caring. At the time, I already liked them after watching some of my father's videos and seeing them in National Geographic. I would go so far as to say I liked them almost as much as I liked heroes, since my room had equal amounts of All Might stuff as it did anything and everything I could get about birds of prey. Father was very happy with that and agreed that I could follow my dream, but he said there would be a problem with it. He said that to build anything like what I wanted I would have to follow the same steps he did to become as smart as he did. I had to focus on and amplify my strengths, in this case, my mind and memory, which meant studying harder than any of my peers. I was only 6 at the time, so that meant a lot, and not focusing on my weaknesses like my lack of quirk. To cover up my flaws and weaknesses by delegating those tasks and responsibilities to others I can trust who are good at them. Mother offered to help that and even said she would look through the neighborhood for tutors and older kids to help me learn what I needed faster, while father said he would send me some notes on mechanics and basic science to help me along. He told me to always be ready and willing to learn and that I should start by keeping a notebook where I can write down what I learned, my observations and theories about the quirks of others and the world around me. He told me to try and learn something new every single day, no matter how small and unimportant it might be. Lastly, he told me to try and put that knowledge into practice as often as I can so that I find it easier not just to remember it, but how it works and how it can be applied in varying situations. He said to experiment and play with IT in a controlled environment if possible. Archive Entry 3. The following entry is a rewrite of a pre-existing diary entry of one Midoriya Izuku. Father is smart, like really smart. When I was younger, I never really knew just how smart he was, all I knew was that he worked abroad and was rarely home. It wasn't till I got older that I understood just what he did for a living. Father works as a researcher for the University of Tokyo and regularly travels with National Geographic funding and support so he can research and study animals and plants around the world. Just the other day he was telling me and my mother about how even animals can develop quirks which can lead to new behaviors, diet, mating, etc. Simply put, quirks are creating their new species in the animal kingdom. Maybe that eagle had a quirk, that's why it came to me of all people. That would explain what it was doing this far inland anyway, since they mostly feed on fish. Father also gave me more notes to work with so I can't complain. Archive Entry 7. The following entry is a rewrite of a pre-existing diary entry of one Midoriya Izuku. It has been around 13 months since that fateful day. I'm now 6 3/4 and have made some serious headway. At first, I just studied extra hard in numbers and spelling class till I was at the top of the class. The others made fun of me, but I didn't let it get to me. After that, my mother started to take time off work and would help me learn things they only start to teach in the second and third years of elementary. It got hard more times than I can count, but I refused to give up and pushed on. It helped that my mother was able to get some of the older kids to help me with my studies. I like hanging out with them, even if most of the time they were just helping me with my studies. Oh, and I have already filled the third book with my hero analysis for the future and my second book on characteristics of winged flight in combat. I never knew you could learn so much from being observant. Archive Entry 9. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. I did it. I was able to accomplish my short-term goal. I'm only 8 years old and in the last days of the first year of elementary school, but I've already completed the yearly curriculum for 5th graders. Now, Mom will let me learn how to use power tools with adult supervision. Of course, she doesn't like me holding the knives in the kitchen after all. Romeo says that there is a body shop nearby, maybe they'll let me watch them work till I'm old enough to help out and learn about their craft. Till then, I have to wait and find a title which should give me a heads up, Mechanics for Dummies. Well, I suppose I have to start somewhere. Archive Entry 10. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. Akugu is being mean again. I just don't understand him anymore. Always picking on others and always so angry. Maybe the day will come when I do understand him. But today isn't that day. Ever since he got his quirk, he changed for the worse. Everyone wants to be the best, there's nothing wrong with it, but why does he have to be so mean about it? Now he's starting to target me more and more about the fact that I keep posting the top of the whole grade in just about every single academic topic we do. I told him that he can't stop me from reaching for my dream, and I made a vow to show the world that being quirkless doesn't mean useless, and that wouldn't change, no matter how many times he calls me that stupid nickname. He was so shocked that he didn't even do anything when I left the classroom, but I have a feeling he will be ready tomorrow. Maybe I should start working out. Archive Entry 11. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. Turns out that exercise isn't such a bad idea. Mom said that every hero knows some form of self-defense, and Dad told me keeping in shape is always a good thing, no matter your occupation. Plus there is that pesky law in Japan about being overweight which at this point might as well be illegal, as most stores don't sell larger than average clothing, unless the customer is naturally large like All Might or has some mutation like Gang Orca. There also the fact that you could lose your job if you're overweight. Yeah, Mom, and I need to work out more, and I already came up with the best exercise regimen. 5-minute warm stretches, followed by 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups, then a 2 kilometers jog, and lastly cooling down stretches. Mom removed the jog and replaced it with 1 hour of a home workout video. I never knew what the heck Taibo was till now. Then I made the mistake of telling my older tutors about it. Apparently, it's a type of workout mostly used by middle-aged mothers, and they laughed so hard that Akito fell in tears. Why, Mom? Why? Archive Entry 15. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. As much as I hate to admit it, those Taibo videos do help. When I had my last checkup with the doctor, he said I was as healthy as a horse. When I saw myself in the mirror this morning, I saw myself, but I was much more toned and muscularly defined or as defined and toned as a 9-year-old could be anyway. I also found that the local beach had a lot of spare and second parts lying around. Shame that no one wants to clean it up, but I suppose it's not as glamorous and flashy enough for people to care. Anyway, it's a great source of spare parts since I got permission to shadow the mechanics at the body shop. The owner goes by Kenny Levin and he seems pretty nice. He takes time to show me around the different tools and other equipment. He showed me how to take apart a basic generator and put it back together again. Then told me to do the same, which took me around 3.5 hours to do what he did in 20 minutes. I blame the fact that the tools are really heavy. After that, he and the rest of the crew put me through my paces and made sure I memorized just about every tool and part needed for mechanics. One of them even gave me his old notebook where he wrote stuff about the more complex aspects of mechanics. Dad came back for the week, so I was able to show him all 8 books with my hero analysis for the future notes and all 5 books on characteristics of winged flight in combat. I even started another series I call Land-Based Avian Combat Tactics, since a lot of birds can't fly. I'm so far still working on the first one for that. We spent some time going over my notes. He was a great help as he pointed out stuff I had noted that was redundant, too complex, and should be kept for later times, and what was too summarized to be of great importance. We also were able to make a more realistic drawing of my idea together. We even went on a family picnic, and while we were out, we found the perfect spot for me to test out my new suits once I start building them. Archive entry 16. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. All Might's been acting strange lately. I mean, he's always acting odd, but that's just how he is. That's All Might for you. But now, there is something different to it. I noticed it the other day when I was working on the internal skeleton for my MKI suit. All Might used to be seen almost all the time during the day, either fighting crime, saving people, or just witnesses saying they saw him running or jumping through towards wherever he wanted to go. Now he's barely seen for more than a few hours a day. I counted, at most, the time he's seen in a day amounts to about 5.5 hours. Why is that? He doesn't look like he's getting old. He and Endeavor are more or less the same age, I think, and he's as active as ever, maybe more so now that All Might is around as often. Maybe he's sick. Like Grandpa was before he went to the doctors and got that operation done. If that's true, then why doesn't he just go to the doctor? Maybe I'm overthinking things again. Dad says I have that mentality. Anyway, I've finished this year's curriculum and now I'm bored out of my mind in class. I already know what sensei is telling us and have completed all the assignments, tests, and projects for the year. Maybe I should talk to Mom about it. Archive entry 17. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. I suppose Bakugo now has even more reason to be mean. Mom talked to the principal, and because of my academic brilliance, they concluded that I should be moved 2 grades up to the 6th grade so I can continue to grow. It must have been odd when my former homeroom teacher told the class that I was too smart to be in the 4th grade and had been bumped up to a higher class, but it was necessary to do so. It's not like I had any friends to worry about leaving behind. Now I can start touching upon more complex levels of mechanics. I also picked up some books and downloaded some videos on airframe design and complex mechanism design, since Toussaint was able to get one of his colleagues to look at my designs and point out many flaws in them. It's still possible, but I would need to heavily revise the design to make it a reality. Also, Kenny told me that working with such heavy tools and machinery requires a strong body, so I've increased my workout regimen to 5-minute warm stretches, followed by 60 push-ups and 60 sit-ups, followed by a 600 meters run and 20 minutes of Taibo videos, and finished with 5 minutes of cool-down stretches. I've only been at it for about a month, but I swear I can feel the changes already. Archive entry 20. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. The MKI flight suit was a complete and utter failure. It took me 2 whole months of all-nighters and Sunday sessions to finish it, but that thing was a bust. Mom and I drove to my new secret testing site, and luckily for me, she was able to convince me not to wear the suit, but rig it with a bag of rocks that weighed more or less the same as myself. The giant set of wings and propeller blades was the length of 1.5 cars and needed to be assembled on site since it wouldn't fit in the car otherwise. The thing was also very heavy, as it weighed around 315 kgs, was extremely noisy, since we could hear it powering up from over 500 m 546 yards away, since we needed to be at a distance in case something happened, and lastly, it was unable to sustain flight for more than 30 seconds with something as heavy as me, and without weight only lasted an additional 45 seconds. Even then, the thing couldn't get more than 6.5 feet off the ground before it caught fire and crashed into a nearby tree. The only thing this model shows is that it is possible to carry one after much work back at the drawing board. Archive entry 22. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. It's the winter holidays, and the year hasn't been that exciting for me. School is still a place with no friends, since everyone is put off by my quirkless status or the fact I'm 2 grades ahead of everyone else my age. I was able to find out the many problems which lead to the poor performance of the MKI and have dedicated my whole winter break to solving as many of them as I can. But I can't help but feel sad when I look out the window and see all the other kids playing in the snow and having fun, but who am I fooling? Even if I went outside, no one wants to play with me because I'm not like them, I'm different. Archive entry 27. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. Well, it's official, I'm a genius. I was able to finally complete the MK2, and it shows much more promise than its older predecessor, which I have to give thanks to Dad. The MKI was mainly MADE 85% to be exact, made from junk I found by Dagaba Municipal Beach, which did account for some of the MKI failings, but thanks to Dad getting his hands on some better parts from some of the engineering students attending Tokyo University. The MK2 is only 60% trash now. I paid extra attention to picking out the most suitable parts this time around. I've also improved on the mechanical and electrical side, so all that lead to the MK2 being much less clunky as to the MKI and way less, coming in at 260 kilograms, not as noisy as it now just sounds like a muscle car when powering up, and can lift a 55 kg 121 pounds up to 6m 19.6 feet off the ground for over 3 minutes. It was such a success that mother let me ride it around for a bit before we went home. Now, all we have to do is tone down the size, make it more streamlined, add flight time, and increase how much it can carry. After all, I'll have to carry people to safety, so it needs to be able to support that kind of weight. But I was able to create the proper flight mechanism to help stabilize movement, so like I said, I'm a genius. I did find something else to do over the winter break. Whenever I got frustrated with the MK2, I would head over to Dagaba Beach and just let the breeze calm me down. Not many people went there, and the times that they did were few and far between. After a while I thought about cleaning the place so that people could enjoy the beach. It was the right thing to do after all. So I did it. While all the other kids were playing in the snow or hanging out with friends, I went to the beach every morning at the crack of dawn for 3 weeks and clean what I could till midday before I would go home, shower, eat something, and work on the MK2 till supper. After I finished the MK2 I would spend even the afternoons cleaning the place. I don't think I'll finish anytime soon, but I can see that I'm making progress as the garbage piles grow smaller and smaller, 1 inch at a time, day by day. Mom likes that I'm doing community service like that. She believes that it is very heroic to clean up the beach so that people can enjoy it again. She liked to go there when she was younger and even helps me whenever she has a day off from work at the hospital. Dad even came home with great news the other day. He got invited to Island for a 3-day conference for a summit on the global animal watch. He said we could come with him. I don't even know what I'm going to wear since Dad said that very rich and fancy people will be in attendance. Mom said she'll get me a suit and tie later this week. Maybe I can ask Mr. Shield about my plans. He's super smart and knows just about everything about machines, so he'll be able to help me solve the problem. Now, how to make a prototype flight combat suit and get it past customs. Archive entry 29. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. Island is every bit as amazing as I thought it would be, and more. I can't believe that this whole place is dedicated to the pursuit of science and knowledge. Dad must be respected in the scientific community if he was invited here. After all, there are a lot of tourists here, but they all had to pay to get here. There is so much cutting-edge tech just sitting around for public use or entertainment. There was so much to see and so much to do that Mom and I spent the whole day just walking around acting like tourists. There were even some foreign pro heroes here too. I filled up 2 whole books worth of hero analysis for the future and another 3 books just about the tech that I saw. When I think about it, my stuff really is amateurish in comparison, but they all have their PhDs. Already, I'm a genius, not a Saitama who can pull victories from any situation no matter what. Speaking of which, I need to download Shingeki no Kyojin and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood while we're here. We don't get much Wi-Fi at home and I need my anime fix. Maybe I'll get some Pewd's videos too. It's been a while since I watched his videos since I've been busy lately. Archive entry 30. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. I can't believe that I got to meet the David Shield. The man whose effect on the world is second only to All Might. He was All Might's first partner from when he lived in the States and is the only person to receive a Noble Quirk Prize. He was at the summit and I fanboyed out when we talked to him. Dad has a big project coming up which means he'll be paired up with David Shield. I don't know much, but I do know that it'll involve the brains of mammals and that Dad will be living here for the next year. It's sad knowing that once we leave here, Dad will stay behind, but we already promised to chat and send letters, and Dad never breaks a promise. Also, I got to meet Mr. Shield's daughter Melissa. She's older than me by around 2 years and is doing her first year at junior high, but already has many rewards to her name like father like daughter I suppose. It was nice to talk to someone close to my age for a change, and since I've also started my first year in junior when I get back to Japan, we had a lot more to talk about while we were together. We walked around the labs and met a lot of the researchers. I almost passed out what they were working on. All this could change the world one day. Melissa is quirkless like me, but she doesn't let it get her down, and she works hard to help create the tools that heroes will use to save people. I like that about her. Really, what's not to like about her? After we exchanged numbers to keep in contact, I can't believe I got a girl's number. She left to get her stuff together for classes on Monday, so I left and looked around for Mr. Shield. I found him near his lab and was able to ask him if he could help me later on since I needed to get the MK2 and show him. He probably thought it was some school project and agreed to meet me the next day, which happened to be Sunday. Archive entry 30. Diary entry of Midoriya Izuku. I can't believe that I made Mr. Shield gawk like that. To be fair, I was already strapped into the suit and waiting for him by the time he showed up. He was impressed with my work. He even said it was amazing that I made such a thing with mostly broken, second-hand or used parts I found in the scrap heap. I got complimented for my work by the David Shield. This will go down as one of the best days in my life. He was impressed with the control system I came with and how it compensated for the fact my hands were busy with the control by using my legs for picking stuff up and combat like actual birds of prey, and by the fact that the wings were strong enough to knock a grown man on his butt. After I removed the gear and we sat down, the ideas he added to my plans left me with a blown mind. I didn't doubt his mind before, but after that, I never will. As we talked, I told him how the suit's power source was just an old diesel engine I got off a motorcycle I found in the dump that I repurposed and upgraded to, which he said was creative, but was the reason the suit couldn't fly very high or lift larger loads, since no motorcycle engine could provide such power. He suggested that I use a special kind of battery they developed here on Island to make up for this and replace the engine with a new one being developed here on Island, which relied on solar energy for the secondary charge. Plus it would generate 6 times the power of the old engine I was using and last much longer. We also swapped out the heavier steel alloy I had used for the construction and replaced it with lightweight but strong gold titanium alloy, which according to our maths would offer more strength at less weight. The feathers of the wings were also replaced with a dense but lightweight aluminium steel alloy Mr. Shield had developed so that they would be just as strong but at 2/3 the weight. After we put it all together as fast as we could, we tested it. And it was a success. The new onboard OS made the ride much smoother as it controls the systems necessary for flight and quick reaction times that normally would require the user to do so. I could focus on other things. The new design was the best one yet. It looked so modern, so sleek and graceful that I hardly recognized it when it was completed. The new wiring and support components in the joints and each feather also helped reduce drag as the wings can move more freely to compensate for such. And all this came in at only 145 kg 319 pounds in weight. Rather than being noisy, it sounded much softer now, but we both knew it was producing more power than all 3 predecessors, which was proven when in the very large lab, we found out it could lift a max of 165 kg 363 pounds kgs in weight. Had a flight time of over 15 minutes, and when we flew it outside, had an altitude ceiling of 24 m 78 feet, and could reach a top speed of 52 km/h 116 miles per hour. Afterward, I did ask why Mr. Shield helped me since I can't be the first kid that asked. He nearly fainted when he told me that my dad had told him about it before he got here since he knew I would ask him for assistance. I cried when he told me that I could be a hero and he was behind me in my journey to become one 100%. Before Mom and I left for home, Mr. Shield gave me a 6 TB hard drive with everything I would need to know about physics, chemistry, metallurgy, mechanical science, electrical engineering, aerospace engineering, software design, and other fields of computer science, and finally many notes and papers on plasma and nuclear physics since he figured that I would want to develop an even stronger power source down the line. As I fell asleep on the flight back to Tokyo, I thought to myself that I had 5 years till the UA entrance exam. I had 5 years to master everything. Mr. Shield gave me 5 years to perfect my idea to a level where I can use it like any hero uses their quirk. As I closed my eyes with my head on Mom's lap, I made a vow. I'll become the armored hero from above, I'll become a bird of prey to villains, and a dove of peace to the weak. I'll become a vulture. It was supposed to be an average everyday morning for Izuku Midoriya. His day started like every other day. He would wake up at 5 a.m., get dressed for his morning jog, return home around 6:30, shower, and eat breakfast with his mother while watching the morning news before heading out for school. That was the plan anyway, as some villain was rampaging through town and had caused all the trains coming in and out of the area to grind to a halt for safety reasons. As it was the morning rush hour, there were quite a lot of people in the immediate area, which put them in harm's way, as the villain smashed some of the steel railings for the tracks, which caused some large debris to fall. Would have crushed more than a few people, if not for the timely intervention of a pro hero, who was able to catch the debris before it caused any harm. Oh, it's Death Arms. He carries out justice through his great physical strength, the punching hero. As he carried the heavy steel load away and threw it a safe distance, another hero made their appearance, this one using water to form a sort of barricade to help the police keep the civilians back from the rampaging villain. Everyone, this is dangerous, please stay back. The rescue specialist, Backdraft, is here too. But man, turning into a monster is an amazing quirk. What did he even do? He stole someone's bag, and when he got cornered, he went out of control. A quick like that, and he's a bag snatcher. Meanwhile, as this was happening, Izuku was watching from the nearest building, it was around 9 floors, and offered a good view of the action without risking serious injury. He had made his way up the fire escape when he saw the villain appear in hopes of watching how the heroes would deal with him. So far they were handling the situation quite well. So Death Arms catches any debris that could pose a risk to the safety of the crows, while Backdraft works with the police to keep them calm and at a safe distance. Izuku said to himself as he watched the scene while wearing a pair of goggles of his design which recorded everything he saw and wirelessly sent the footage to a hard drive he kept at home so he can review the fight later. Over the years he found out that if he recorded the fights he saw, he could break them down at a later time without worrying about being injured or annoying those around him. And those two are right about it being a good quirk, but at the end of the day, it's only as good as the user he finished, as he had heard the tail end of the conversation between the two guys by the back of the crowd, since the goggles also did improve sound pickup, and he was curious as to what the civilians were talking about. He did notice another figure make their appearance, as a man covered with spandex, and would run to meet the villain head-on, and if Izuku's memory wasn't enough, the screams of joy from some of the younger women in the crowd reminded him of who this was. You can do it, Kamui. Man, he may be new to the hero scene, but his skills, strengths, and cool head under pressure have made him popular with the ladies. Izuku commented as he watched how Kamui wood swung and bobbed around the attacks from the villain using his wood to form ropes to latch onto stuff and swing around. Get away. The villain yelled at Kamui Woods before he tried another wing at him only for Kamui Woods to expertly dodge the attack and land on the train station's terminal roof. Illegal use of powers during rush hour and robbery resulting in bodily injury. You are the incarnation of evil. Kamui spoke as he stretched out his arm. Izuku may have known what was coming, but it was still a sight to see. Preemptive binding. Lacquered chain prison. There it was, the signature super move of the wood-based hero. Izuku was excited to finally get first-hand footage of Kamui Woods using it, or at least, that should have happened since one last hero made their appearance at the same time. Hanyon Cannon. The giant woman shouted as she kicked the poor man so hard he flew off the train tracks, went through the wall of the trackway, and painfully smacked into the adjacent building, knocking him out on impact. Meanwhile, the crowd, police, and heroes were shocked at the surprise entry. And poor Kamui Woods was left still standing in his striking pose, with his branches still reaching out to capture an opponent no longer in front of him. The newcomer landed in the meantime, and for some reason, the male-only crowd of photographers started taking many pictures. Here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is. They all spoke in unison, which was kinda creepy. Today is the day of my debut, my name is Mount Lady. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. And, as she said this rather lewd line, she had slightly bent to emphasize her now giant ass to the crowd, which, as expected, garnered even more photos taken of her. Must take Yama-chan be so vain. Poor Kamui looks like a wooden puppy that just had its food taken. Izuku said to himself as he tiredly but fondly shook his head as he watched the aftermath as the police secured the villain while the heroes accepted their thanks while standing guard in case the villain tried something. Mount Lady looked like she was enjoying it since she got to stand right to the perpetrator since technically she caught him. Izuku, seeing the action was over and done with, took off his goggles, rushed down the fire escape and made his way to school before he was late. But, as he was leaving the rooftop, Mount Lady seemed to turn to face him without anyone's notice and gave him a wink and half-lidded gaze which he caught. She knew I was here, wait a minute, then she knew I was recording that. Why do I have a feeling that she's gonna want a copy of that? She is one vain woman. Izuku thought to himself at the thought of how she was going to hound him about this for sure. Later that day at Eldera Junior High. Now since you're all third years, it's time for you to think seriously about your futures. The homeroom teacher for the class started, sounding all serious like any teacher with a class of third years would. I'll pass out handouts for you to fill in your future plans, but he continued before he grabbed those very same handouts and threw them into the air while some of the students started to activate their quirks. You'll all be planning to go into the hero course, right? He asked stated as the whole class roared with joy as they all activated or revealed their quirks. The only two who didn't were Izuku, who was reading a high school level textbook, and Kitsuki, who was resting his feet on his desk like a proper delinquent. Yes, you all have wonderful quirks, but using your powers at school is against the rules. The teacher remembered with no real heat. Teach. Don't lump us together in the same group. I'm not gonna be stuck at the bottom with the rest of these rejects. Kitsuki stated arrogantly from his desk, which, as one would expect, didn't sit well with the rest of the class. That was uncalled for, Kitsuki. Yeah. You should all shut up like the extras you are. Kitsuki egged them on with a prideful smirk. Oh yes, if I remember correctly, you want to go to the UA High, right, Bakugo? The teacher announced to hopefully stop the class from descending further into unrest, since he had a feeling Kitsuki would use it as an excuse to fight most of them and intimidate the other half into submission. Once that little tippet was in the air, the class was silenced by it. UA? That national school. It was in the top 0.2% this year, you know. Their acceptance rate is always really low, too. That's exactly why you guys are just extra. Kitsuki announced as he jumped into his desk and stood proud. I aced the mock test. He continued as he pointed a finger at himself. I'm the only one at this school who can possibly get into the UA. I'll surpass All Might and become the top hero, and my name will be recorded as the top earner. He finished, leaving the class in silence. Till the teacher decided he wanted to burst his bubble. Oh yeah, Midoriya, you wanted to attend UA as well, right? He added, which silenced even Kitsuki, who looked like he just remembered something embarrassing at the worst of times. That is correct, sensei. Like Bakugo, I too wrote the mock test and passed with flying colors. Izuku answered as he turned his attention away from his book to speak to his teacher before he returned to what he was reading. Wait, even Midoriya wants to go. But isn't he quirkless? How could he possibly hope to compete? The dude still is the top of the class in just about every subject except PE, remember? The dude skipped 2 whole grades, and I heard he's only still in middle school because all the hero schools don't take students younger than 15. All the class whispered to each other. Kitsuki wanted to throw Izuku out the damn window. How could he forget that Deku was aiming for the hero course as well? And unlike the rest of the extras whose names he didn't even bother remembering, he thought, no, he knew that Izuku had a chance at it. Not as much as he did, but a lot more than the rest of them. Over the years, he had seen how the scared and quirkless kid he knew changed into someone who could stand tall and face the world. Ever since he had learned that Deku had been bumped up 2 whole grades, he had worked non-stop to surpass him and remind him who was better. But for every time he beat him, Izuku would beat him in another field altogether. If he got the higher grade in English, Izuku would get the higher grade in math. If he outran him on the track, Izuku would outswim him in the pool. When he joined the boxing club and quickly became the star member, Izuku went and became the president of the science club. He may have had the upper hand when it came to actual fighting, as he had won 15 of their 28 school fights. Yes, he kept count, they had fought over the years, but Izuku would always seem like his superior in class, as he had held on to the top spot for the past 3 years and was still going strong. For the teacher, he was proud of the 2-star pupils, as he had taught both of them and saw that they had the skill and potential to get into UA High. Bakugo was like a living dynamo who seemed to be good at just about everything he did and still worked hard to become better at what he could do. He was something who could be a jack of all trades and still perform better than most, but his arrogance and brashness was something of a concern to him, as he didn't want the boy to squander his potential just because he couldn't recognize the same in others and accept it. Midoriya on the other hand was the underdog of the two, but still showed results, as even though he was quirkless, he was the top student in the whole school, as he had set records with his grades and, as the rumors said, had only stayed in middle school rather than finish early because it was illegal for a hero course to take in students younger than 15. Heck, he only really attended school just to pass the time since he already completed it. He was the only kid that could sleep through class and not worry about it. He was the president of the science club and a member of the local dojo, which explained how he could beat Bakugo all those times. The only concern he had about young Midoriya was the fact that he had 0 friends and barely hung around those his age on a casual basis, which couldn't be good for his development. Damn it, Deku. Why the hell are you going to the UA? Kitsuki demanded as he turned his fiery gaze into a new target who didn't even flinch and kept on reading his book. You and I both know the answer to that, Bakugo. I see no need to repeat myself like a broken record. Izuku stated like it was nothing, knowing that it would piss off Katsuki, but already prepared and waiting for any violent response he may have. How the hell do you think they're even letting you in? You don't even have a quirk like the rest of the extras. Katsuki yelled as he kept to his seat since he wasn't dumb enough to charge the nerd. He knew that Deku could throw a punch. The fact that he didn't react as violently as expected was something the rest of the class didn't miss, but had come to expect from the two rivals in just about everything. Honestly, at this point they weren't even surprised by yet another confrontation between the two. They removed that rule a while ago. I checked before I tried. So deal with it because I can and will stand in the same ring with you and can go a few rounds if necessary. Izuku challenged as he moved his hand into his bag to grab his billy club which he kept with him at all times. Katsuki on his part started crackling little explosions from his hands as he got ready to pounce on his longtime rival, only for the teacher to decide enough was enough. Settle down you two before I give both of you detention. The teacher ordered as he locked eyes with the both of them to ensure they knew he wasn't kidding about it. Yes sensei, whatever you teach. Were their separate answers as they both settled down for the moment. Later after class, Izuku was on his way home since he and Katsuki didn't come to blows, which in of itself was odd, but he did glare at him before he left the class and headed to the arcade. Izuku was thinking of how he and Melissa planned on making his armor even smaller before he decided to bench the thought and take a shortcut through an underpass. As he was walking he never noticed the sewer lid move, but he did hear the faint sound of something coming at him from behind. Like a cat, he quickly jumped forward to avoid the tackle he thought was coming and turned to face the threat. He was met with the sight of some kind of slime monster with two yellow and red eyes and white teeth. "Oh, a medium-sized invisibility cloak," said the slime villain as he towered over Izuku, unnerving the young boy. "Last I checked, I'm not a piece of clothing." Izuku shot back as he slowly backed away with his hand reaching for the inside of his backpack, but the slime villain noticed this and jumped at him. Izuku barely dodged by the skin of his teeth. "Watch it, I don't need a hug today from some slime ball," Izuku yelled as he hoped to stall for time. "Don't worry, I'm just going to take over your body, it won't hurt for long," the villain said as he made another pass which Izuku rolled to the left to avoid. "Like hell, I'm letting that happen," Izuku said back, thinking about how he needed his suit right about now, but he left it in his workshop. Sadly, this momentary lapses in attention was something the villain used and was able to grab a hold of Izuku. "Who said you have a choice?" he taunted as he tried forcing his way into Izuku's body via his mouth and nose, suffocating the boy in the process. "Who said you have one either?" Izuku harshly breathed as he found what he was looking for in his bag, his special billy club. The villain didn't think much of it till Izuku jammed the end of it into his body and pressed a button on the handle, sending a powerful current of electricity through his slimy body and forcing him to release the boy and fall back. "That hurt you little punk," he demanded as he could still feel the shock even though he wasn't in contact with the now revealed taser stick. "It's huff meant to, huff, I modeled after what they used, huff, to use on cattle on farms," Izuku said as he gulped in as much air as he could before he got into a combat stance and reached into his bag once more. "You want another demonstration Evo slush?" he taunted. "Evo slush?" the villain asked, confused. "I figured snot rag was taken and not originally so I had to be creative, it's short for environmental slush puppy, but enough about that, here's a gift," Izuku explained as he drew another object from his bag, this one looking like an oversized red egg, and threw it at the slime villain. He tried to dodge, but since he wasn't expecting Izuku to throw something out of the blue like that, it managed to graze his side, which proved to be enough since, as soon as it made contact, it exploded, and a web of weird-looking string sprung all over the place with him inside and shocked him with enough power to knock him into his stomach as he growled in pain. "Damn it, what the hell is this?" he yelled as the grenade didn't stop shocking him for another few seconds before it stopped, leaving him a twitching mass of slime at this damn kid's feet. Taser grenades work, as the name implies. It was designed to be used on groups of foes, so it has a lot more kick than even this taser. "Maybe I shouldn't have used it on just one target, but you're not dead and you shouldn't suffer any permanent injuries, so it's a win in my book," Izuku revealed as he got out his phone from his pocket to call the authorities. "Good thing I forgot to take that thing out of my bag the other day," Izuku thought to himself, as he was pretty sure he wouldn't have won without it, since sooner or later the villain would have simply overwhelmed him. He finished dialing the number his parents made him memorize before bringing the phone to his ear. "Hello, Musatafu Police, how can I help you?" the operator on the other end asked. "I was attacked by a villain by the underpass on the corner of 5th Street near Ladera Middle School," Izuku told them as he looked around to make sure he was giving the correct street. "And the location of the villain, do you know where they went?" the operator asked, seemingly used to people only seeing villains and wanting to know where to start looking if this call was genuine, only for Izuku to surprise them. Oh no, I already captured him, he's right in front of me see. Izuku said as he turned the phone so it could hear the groans of the beaten villain by his feet. Can you please send someone over to pick him up? Izuku asked them while giving a small shock to the villain with his taser when he noticed he was trying to get up. Sure. An officer is on the way and should be there in about a few minutes, till then please stay put. The operator told him before hanging up. They sounded surprised. What, they never heard of someone stopping a villain by themselves before? Izuku said to himself as he put his phone away. As he waited for the cops, another person came to the scene through the sewer and came in fast, bursting the lid off the drain. Oh ho, I was expecting to find this villainous individual, but to get here and find him already defeated. I must say I'm impressed. The #1 hero in Japan, and maybe the world, spoke as he got up from his crotch as he saw that the villain was already beaten. You're here, All Might is here. Izuku stuttered as he saw his second idol right in front of him. He couldn't believe that he got to meet All Might in person. Thank goodness, I was worried that something might happen with this one. Villains usually don't get away from me, but being in a new city doesn't make it easy to navigate the sewers chasing after someone. All Might said with a laugh that seemed to be as powerful as ever. You're here. Damn it, Izuku may have been working on his confidence, but he just couldn't get out of his fanboyish attitude around heroes he looked up to. He was just lucky Katsuki wasn't around to ruin this for him. Yes, I am. So where's the hero who defeated my opponent and just left? All Might asked, as it did seem, and very irresponsible to just leave the villain on the ground and not capture them. Maybe they left the kid to watch over him till the police got here. Aw, well you see that was me. Izuku managed to get control of himself and stop stuttering and tell him what to do. Oh, how did you take him down then? I must say you handled it quite nicely if I do say so myself, but I hope you know using your quirk without a license isn't exactly allowed, right? All Might replied as he put down his groceries since it seemed like he wasn't going to be able to leave just yet. At his question, Izuku sobered a bit and frowned as if he just ate something bitter. I know, don't worry, I didn't use my quirk, I'm quirkless after all. Izuku revealed to All Might, shocking both the #1 hero and the petty villain who was still paralyzed on the ground. Quirkless? I got beat by some quirkless nobody, the sludge villain thought to himself angrily, but was wise enough not to say anything since he didn't want to be shocked again. No quirk? All Might thought to himself as this reminded him of his past. Now that he thought about it, he did notice that the number of quirkless people had been declining since it had been a while since he spoke to someone who didn't have a quirk or at the very least could admit to such. I already called the police so they should get here soon to pick him up. Izuku said as he pointed his stun baton towards the downed criminal for emphasis as he continued to look upset. Is that right? Then I shall wait for them as well. After all, you only had to act because he got away from me. The least I can do is stay and make sure he doesn't try anything. All Might decided as he was both curious and concerned about this young boy. Really? Izuku asked as he brightened up at the thought of hanging out with All Might, something the hero picked up on. There's something very wrong with this kid. Just now when I mentioned quirks he looked so sad and angry, but now he's made a complete 180. All Might thought to himself as he turned to face the kid fully. Of course, young man. All Might proclaimed with his usual loud and proud tone, silently thanking the fact he didn't have to chase the villain for long. Good thing I still have about 20 minutes left. He thought to himself as the boy he came to know as Izuku Midoriya asked him a ton of questions about hero work, how it is like to have such status, and what he does to keep himself in shape. This went on for another few minutes till a squad car pulled up, and after the officers realized that young Midoriya was the one to take the villain, they loaded him up in the back, thanked the hero for his assistance, which he found to be odd, and left. He noticed that they didn't show the boy any gratitude, which he found to be rude since he handled the situation with an impressive level of grace and skill, and yet they said nothing. He also noticed how the expression on the boy's face had darkened and looked sad at the same time, so he could imagine he picked up on that too. Young Midoriya, I think we need to talk. All Might said, sounding serious, which knocked Izuku out of his dark funk. Oh, a talk, like right now? Izuku asked, as this was getting too exciting for him. He was supposed to be on his way to the dojo. Yes. Now, All Might announced as he crouched down and started doing leg stretches before he pointed to his back. Get on my back. He said like he was talking about the weather. What? Izuku yelled in response, as that wasn't something he ever thought he would hear from the man. We can't have a serious discussion in the middle of the street, we need to have somewhere more suitable. All Might explained, which calmed the boy down, as it did make sense, but it was still unusual. Okay, this is so weird. Izuku said as he put his backpack on and made sure it was secure before he climbed into the back of the blonde hero. He felt like he was a kindergarten kid again and his dad was taking him to the park or something. Now hold on, Re-ite. All Might instructed as he took to the skies with one big jump. In their wake were the screams of a scared shitless junior high student. Why did I agree to this? Later on some rooftop near the market district. Once they landed, All Might was able to get the boy off his back and place him down. Izuku for his part looked like hell, as his hair was all messed up well, more so than usual, and he looked like he just ate 3 lemons at once. Damn, that was scary, how can he move so fast? Izuku muttered to himself as he tried to collect what little dignity he had left so as to not look like a total idiot in front of All Might. But grief, it took longer than normal to find this place. Maybe I do need to do more research about the buildings in the city. All Might said to himself as it was a hassle finding this place. But onto business, yes. Young Midoriya, why did you look so angry when I mentioned quirks? All Might asked the young lad who took a moment to compose himself. Because I hate how almost everyone I meet thinks that the only way you can do things. I hate how when people find out I don't have one, they suddenly think I'm not as capable. Izuku told him with an angry grimace as he thought back to the days he had to endure that before he shut them all up. So you don't like being seen as weak? All Might asked him, seemingly having found the problem, as he knew more than a few people cough, cough endeavor cough who hated being seen as weak in any form. I don't like not being given a chance to prove I'm strong, quirks are just tools, nothing more. Izuku clarified for the hero. Most would have not seen the difference, but All Might did. Izuku wasn't too prideful as to hate things like pity or weakness, he just wanted to be given a chance to shine. As much as everyone else, he didn't want to be the best but prove he had what it took to stand amongst them like an equal. I see, I take it you're interested in the hero course, yes? All Might summarized as he could imagine that this kid's drive was leading him to one place. Yes. Izuku answered as he looked the man in the eye, even if All Might's eyes were hard to see with all the shadows covering them. Even without a quirk, surely you know that you're in for an uphill battle. All Might asked, he didn't want to shoot this kid's dreams down, but he wanted to see if the kid was serious about it. After all, once upon a time he was quirkless too. Nothing in life worth having comes easy. I don't want to be sidelined just because my pinky toe is double jointed. More importantly, I want to be a hero that can be a beacon of hope. Izuku told him with an air of nervous determination. At his last 3 words All Might stiffened as he recalled his past. A beacon? All Might asked him, wanting to hear more. Wait a minute. Yes. I want to be able to save people, to help people, to become the living symbol of proof that being quirkless isn't the end of the world and that you can do whatever your heart desires, that all it takes is the will and effort. Izuku told him, gaining more confidence and passion as he kept speaking till he had straightened his back, raised his chin, and spoke like a leader. At this, All Might remembered something from his past, back from when he was in junior high. It was snowing that day, a day that felt like a lifetime ago. I want to become a beacon of hope so that people can believe again, so that they have something to hope for, even if I'm quirkless. This kid is just like me, All Might thought to himself, shocked that he had run into someone who had a drive to help, just like he did. He was so lost in thought that he had completely forgotten about his time limit, but he remembered when he felt the pain of his limit closing shot through him. Shit. I forget all about that. All Might said to himself as he felt his lips get bloody as steam started coming off his form. All Might, are you alright? Izuku asked him, worried, as he didn't think this was part of whatever quirk All Might had, and he seemed like he was in pain before the steam started forming. Damn, what's with all this steam? Izuku asked as he tried waving his way through it till he came into contact with the number 1 hero, who was now super skinny and sickly looking. Hell. You deflated alright, who the hell are you? Don't make me you. Izuku demanded as he jumped back and took out his stun baton and got into a defensive stance. This guy may look weak, but looks can be deceiving. I am all mig was what he wanted to say till he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Izuku, being as smart and observant as he recalled something from the past and chose to help this deflated form of All Might. Answers can come later. Oh my god, are you alright? Damn, I need to call a doctor or something. Izuku said as he ran up to him and helped him to sit down, leaning on the railings for support. He was about to reach for his phone till All Might waved him off. There's no need for that, it's not like it will do any good. All Might told him as he breathed out a sigh of exhaustion. What do you mean won't do any good? You look like you haven't eaten in weeks. Izuku panicked as he searched around his bag for a moment before he pulled out his bento and practically shoved it into the surprised hero's hands. Here, take this, you need it a hell of a lot more than I do. Izuku finished as he put down his bag. I don't think All Might tried to refuse, but Izuku wasn't having any of that. Did I stutter? Eat. Up. Or I will force you down your throat. Izuku threatened as he pressed the button to let out a little crackle of electricity to get his point across, which combined with the glare he was sending the man's way scared him. Hell, it reminded him of the looks he would get from Nana and Sorahiko. Jesus, this kid can be scary when he wants to be. was All Might's thoughts as he submitted and ate the surprisingly great-tasting meal under the watchful eye of the middle schooler. Once he was done, he placed the empty box down and faced the boy who had calmed down. "We can sit here all day, you know. I already missed my judo class, so I have nothing to do for another 2 hours." Izuku told him with his hands on his hips and an unimpressed expression that nearly mirrored the face his mother would give him whenever he screwed up and wasn't willing to talk. "I was hoping for an alternative," All Might said aloud, as he knew he wasn't getting out of this without an explanation. "I imagine that this has something to do with what happened 5 years ago," Izuku said out of the blue, which got a very bloody reaction out of the man. Cough. "How do you know about that?" All Might asked the kid with a shocked and slightly scared face. "I don't know what happened, but I noticed that around that time you seemed to appear less, and it's been getting worse lately since people rarely see you these days. You saved the day and are gone before anything else. I've been told I'm observant," Izuku told him as he recalled the pattern he noticed all those years ago. He just thought All Might was trying to live a more normal life since next to nothing was known about it in the first place. "So you are. I don't think I've ever run into someone like you. Figuring that out is impressive, but since you already had your suspicions and have seen me like this," All Might said as he lifted his shirt to show Izuku the horrid wound upon his person. "Yeah, I know, not that pretty. It's an injury I got from a villain's attack 5 years ago," All Might confirmed. "You mean Toxic Chainsaw did that?" Izuku asked him, shocked that he was able to wound the hero so badly, only for All Might to shake his head as a no to his answer. "Nope, a punk like that couldn't even dream of such, but he was a villain that the government doesn't want to be well known because of his power. I lost my left lung and my whole stomach. I've become emaciated from the repeated surgeries and the after effects. Right now, I can only work as a hero for about 3 hours a day." All Might told him with a frown as he thought about how he could work less and less with each passing day. "Is it that bad?" Izuku asked him as he came to sit next to him. "Afraid so, as you guessed, that time limit of mine has been steadily decreasing as the years go by. Soon the day will come when I will be forced to retire," All Might said, speaking the truth that he hated to acknowledge, but it wasn't something he could ignore, not at this point. "Isn't there, I mean, can't you travel to Island? They study just about everything there. Surely one of them could help," Izuku suggested. He knew of the breakthroughs that had seemingly happened weekly there. "I appreciate the gesture of young Midoriya, but David Shield himself looked at this, he tried, and he failed," All Might revealed to him. "You went to see Shield-sama?" Izuku asked, as his mentor never said anything about this, and Melissa also kept quiet about it too, but maybe that had this meeting before they met. "Shield-sama?" All Might asked. He may use English words and American slang a lot, but he hadn't forgotten proper Japanese prefixes and suffixes over the years. "Yes, my father and Shield-sama are partners and work closely together. Just about everything I know I owe to them and Melissa," Izuku told him as he thought about all the fond memories he had made on Island and how hanging out with Melissa was always the highlight of his trips there. "I see, he did tell him he had taken on a sort of apprentice last I spoke to him, small world," All Might stated as he cracked a smile at the unlikely things that had happened today. "Does Melissa know she looks up to you, you know?" Izuku asked as he gestured to his whole smaller form. "I don't know, she doesn't, we just couldn't bring ourselves to tell her," All Might said as he and Dave didn't want to tell the poor girl she didn't need to know such depressing things. They sat silent for a few moments, each one digesting the day's events and the revelations that had been revealed to each other before Izuku spoke up again. "I'm not going to pretend I know what you're going through. Everyone breaks differently and deals with pain in different ways, but you should tell her. She wouldn't see you as any less, trust me, her heart's as big as her brain. She's the big sister I never had after all, so I should know besides," Izuku started as he thought about Melissa and her endless kindness and her understanding heart. "For what it's worth, I don't think less of you, if anything I think you're even better than I was before," Izuku finished as he looked towards the wounded titan he came to idolize like many kids, only now he knew he was human and that made all his feats and achievements even more impressive. "Young Midoriya, you have a heart of gold. I'm sure that if you gave it your all, one day you may just take my place as the #1 hero," All Might told him suddenly. In another timeline he would have told him it wasn't possible without a quirk, but right here and now, he saw that this boy had a different kind of power, one that many pros didn't have. This kid reminded him of himself, but also showed him that he was going to be even greater than most of the current heroes. This show of support, this vote of confidence from the #1 hero was enough to bring Izuku to tears. Thank you so much," he repeated as he tried and failed to wipe away his tears. "Come here, let it all out." All Might soothed him as he brought the kid closer so he could cry it out. He would have if not for him touching his wounded area by mistake. "Ouch. Sorry. It's fine, it's just sensitive is all," All Might told him as he rubbed the area, waiting for the pain to die out. Izuku said as he reached for his back and started looking through it. Just how much stuff does he have in there? All Might thought to himself, as he wouldn't be surprised if the kid pulled out Nezu, since that darn whatever he was loved to pull such tricks on people. After a few moments, Izuku pulled out a small package and handed it to him. It might not be much, but they do help me when my muscles are sore. I sometimes lose track of the time when I'm working out. Izuku said, as All Might looked at the now revealed muscle patches the boy had given him. He knew that they worked great on aches and cramped muscles, and he could see that they were made in France, just like the ones he used. I agree, I used that same brand. I even got some more today, All Might said, as he gestured to the empty spot where his groceries would have been if he didn't forget them by the underpass, the same groceries that had his patches and dinner for the night. Damn it. All Might coughed out with some blood as he just realized his screw-up. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.